number 1. I decided to show these tools in the order that we would use them as we sew. First up is the Magic Faultless Premium Quilting and Crafting Spray. This is magic stuff. I actually think I buy this stuff by the gross because I love it. I usually do what is considered a pretty wet spray so my fabric looks almost saturated. Then with a dry iron, I iron it completely dry because I don't like to take the time to let it dry overnight. Some people totally saturate the fabric with the spray and then let it dry overnight. They would then iron it with a steam iron to get all the wrinkles out. Or you can do a very light spray on your fabric. This product has replaced any other starch that I would have used on my fabrics. It gives you a great body and makes them actually easier to handle and prevents a lot of the fraying that happens. I usually plan on an afternoon of spraying and pressing my fabrics. It's really hard to show you what the changes are in the fabric, but here's a piece of fabric that I have used the spray starch on and a piece of fabric that I have not. You can see how much more like an actual piece of paper the fabric sprayed with the starch is. Magic Faultless Premium Quilting and Crafting Spray comes in an aerosol can, which I really like. It also comes in a spray bottle that is refillable. I just happen to like the intensity of the spray that comes out of the aerosol can. I feel I have more control with the aerosol over a pump spray. Be prepared for your fabric to shrink if you use a lot or saturate your fabric and then let it dry. You will have shrinkage. It's just like pre-washing your fabric, but it does make your fabric easier to handle. So this is my number 1 favorite tool. It's okay to use starch in your fabrics. They will wash out. They shouldn't cause any color bleed, but if you're worried, do a color test first. Starches make it easier for us to create our beautiful creations. My next favorite tool would be the Diagonal Seam Tape by Cluck Cluck Sew. This tape comes as a little roll of washi tape. It has 3 markings on it. You have the red line in the center, and then you have a 1/4 inch on either side from that center line. This will help you make those diagonal seams quicker and faster without having to mark all of your blocks corner to corner, such as snowballing, half square triangles, or any other diagonal seam. To position the tape, carefully line the cut edge of the tape at the edge of your feed dogs, with the red line in line with your needle in the center position. I'm using my regular presser foot with this tape. I don't need to use my 1/4 inch foot today. You don't need to worry about that. I always begin with a thread catcher or a leader, so that's what I'm showing today. I'm going to sew 2 5-inch squares. We're going to make some half square triangles, and you'll notice that I did not draw my corner to corner line, so there are a couple of options with this. I can put my corner directly on that red line right up under my presser foot and sew. That will only give me 1 half square triangle when I trim, but I want to make 2 at a time. So I'm going to put the corner of my square to the right side of my presser foot, and I'm going to follow the gray 1/4 inch line going straight. Because the needle is lined up with the center red line, it will stitch at a 1/4 inch. Then I'll rotate my square and repeat for the other side. This is what it will look like without your line drawn. And now it's ready to cut from corner to corner, which gives us our half square triangles and leads to our next tool. Tool number 3, the next tool that I think every quilter should have is a quilter's or tailor's clapper. These come in all different sizes. I have a 6.5 inch and a 12-inch clapper. The clapper needs to be made out of hardwood because you don't want them to warp. Their purpose is to absorb the moisture and heat from the iron when you press your block or your components of your block to give you a good flat seam. They can be fancy and they can be pretty ordinary. It doesn't matter, but just make sure it's a hardwood. They work better with steam, and I know there are a lot of people out there who don't use steam when they are piecing. I use steam a lot and almost consider it one of my favorite tools. Let's call it tool 3A. I find I get better results with steam. I can never get my blocks to lay flat if I'm not using steam. The clapper will still work if you don't use steam. It just works better with steam. You could also lightly mist your block with water. Now we're ready to press our half square triangles. First, I set my seam, then open my half square triangle and carefully finger press to the dark side so I don't distort it. This pressing to the dark side will become important in our next step. Then I will press it with my iron. Next, I will put my half square triangle aside and put my clapper on it. The clapper just has to sit for about 20 to 30 seconds on the block. I will stack several blocks under my clapper at a time as I'm pressing. Now for tool number 4. Because I have used starch, washi tape guidance, steam, and a clapper, my block is very flat and pretty accurate, but it's not the correct size. I need to trim the half square triangle to the perfect size. There are a lot of half square triangle tools out there, but I like the block lock. This one is 6 inches, and I have a 4.5 inch block lock. There are many more sizes to choose from, as well as different types of block lock rulers. These rulers are a good investment to help improve your accuracy. To trim our half square triangles, because I have already pressed to the dark side, think Darth Vader, my dark fabric is now the high side. The light side of my half square triangle, think Luke Skywalker, is now the low side. This is really important because when I put my block lock on my square, the block lock logo goes on the light side, logo on the Luke side. This will ensure that my block lock does not slip and the groove on the back is locked into the correct place. The next step is to determine what size to trim your block to. You want to make sure you have enough room to trim all the way around before you make the first cut. Once you have determined that you have enough room, go ahead and trim both sides. Now the block lock creators show you how to slide the ruler up just a bit, and then by grabbing the corners you rotate the ruler and the block to trim the other 2 sides. I find this a little tricky to accomplish and have to reposition my ruler and my block again. I prefer to use a rotating mat. Let's call this rotating mat tool 4A. A rotating mat helps me with maneuvering my block lock by rotating my block and then simply sliding the block lock down my block, keeping my seam in the groove. Once I have my block lock lined up with the edges of my block that have been trimmed, I can easily trim the other 2 sides and my half square triangle block is perfect. I also make sure I have a good sharp blade in my rotary cutter. Tool number 5. What if you need to press your seam open? Let's get out the strip stick. The strip stick is a hard stick that's flat on one side and rounded on the other, and the whole thing is covered in muslin. It's meant to help you get those seams open and flat. We're going to open and press our seam on our half square triangle. I'm going to reheat my seam because it works better with a warm seam. Then I'm going to lay my block face down on the strip stick and open my seam and then give it a good press on the curved side of the strip stick. Say that fast 3 times. This will help you get that seam flat and you won't get any channeling on the right side. When you are done pressing, you're going to take your clapper and lay it on that seam so it's nice and flat. Tool number 6. Another one of my very favorite quilting tools, of course, is a wool mat. This is my old wool mat and I use this one to travel with. but I like it so much that I invested in one for my ironing board that sits under my cover. This wool mat has really helped me a lot with my pressing and having a nice and happy ironing experience. Tool number 7. This tool is called the Binding Ease tool. It's made by Quilted Hearts. Susan Adams and her cousin Michelle Noble came up with this brilliant tool. It comes in 2 colors, and I got the pink one because it was the first one. When I saw how ingenious this was, I had to have it. I use it all the time. I have 320 inches of binding ready to press in half. This is how I do it. I'm going to press about the first 8 inches nice and flat. Then I'm going to feed that fabric through these 2 loops, keeping the fold of the fabric toward me. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to pull from the left, and I'm going to keep the fabric edges together with my right hand. At this point, my iron goes down on the binding ease and the fabric. I turn my steam off because I find the steam gets too hot. Then I start pulling, and I just pull the binding through with my left hand, and I adjust the edges with my right hand. Just pull it through, and this speeds everything up. We're going to speed the camera up too, just so you can see how quickly it goes through and how quickly you can press your binding. Number 8. I actually saved my all-time favorite tool for last. I think there are a lot of tools that are up there, but this one tool I have at both of my machines. This is also the tool that I take to classes, because if I can't get to an iron, this is the tool I'm going to use. It's called the Fabric Folding Pen, and it is by Clover. It has a magic juice. I don't know what the solution is. It's just this little solution that comes with the pen, and then you can buy refills, and it lasts forever. I have not run out of this juice yet. You put 3 drops of the solution in your pen and then fill it to the fill line with water. It has a sponge applicator at the tip. This tool is amazing for so many things, so I'm going to show you some of the uses today. We all know when we use fabric fresh off the bolt, we have this excellent fabric fold line, and it's really hard to press out, even with starch. I use this to help me iron that fold out. I do it sometimes before I cut, but definitely if I have a fabric fold that is not relaxing with ironing, then I'll get my fabric folding pen out and hit that fold with the solution, and it will relax. Also, when I'm at my sewing machine and I'm joining my block components, I see that I have a seam that's not quite pressed the way I want it to be. I'll quickly hit that seam with my fabric folding pen, and it relaxes the press that I put in and gives me a good flat seam. Then, of course, there are times when pressing your seams and you don't have access to an iron. This fabric relaxing stuff gives you just as good a flat seam as if you had actually been at the iron, and it will speed things up. I know that I would not recommend it for paper piecing simply because your paper would become soggy. I love using this, and most of the time I don't go re-iron the blocks that I have used my fabric folding pen on. I just don't. It's that amazing of a tool. I also use the fabric folding pen if I'm doing in the hoop machine embroidery, because it helps me flip and fold my fabric. I don't have to take the hoop out and bring in a little iron. I don't need to mess or fuss with anything like that. I'm ready to just flip it and fold it and go on. It's just a brilliant tool that I have on hand. Like I said, I have 2, and you can have more, but every toolbox needs to have 1 of these. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I appreciate the opportunity to share my favorite tools with you. A special thank you to Camera Guy who made the close-up details available to you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. Be sure to grab your own Smart Start Quilters Toolkit with 6 bonus training videos of what I wish I knew when I started quilting.